You know, it's one thing that I found out recently that I just can't wait to share with you is, did you know the man that held John Wilkes Booth's horse on the night he went to go assassinate Lincoln? His name was Mr. Peanut. Mr. Peanut helped assassinate the president.
I can't tell if you're fucking with me.
That is a genuine thing. Hello, my name is Fred Stewart. Welcome to Hans Graves and Omens. With me, as always, my lovely co-host.
It's me. It's Taylor. Hi.
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 It's definitely the second time we're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
First time we did it, it went on and just kind of was a rambling mess, I felt like. So we're back and we're going to do it again, but a little more professional, a little more tight. Tight, you know?
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Is there any news stories you want to tell?
No, be honest, totally forgot to look. I'll be honest.
There was just one news story that I told in the previous recording of this, but yeah, man, like I think it wasn't Washington County, but it was
Was
in
the
Oregon.
man throwing the freezer? Or was that?
No, that was a while ago. That was a couple episodes ago. But yeah, man, got released from a DUI intox and then came back to the jail. Started trying to kick in the front door.
That's what it
I got
was.
arrested again.
He just wanted to go back.
Yeah, it was he was like, my friends are in there. My friends.
I won't go back in, guys.
I want to go back in. Well, I guess we can just hop straight into it, shall we?
I'm ready.
All right. Just to preference this episode, this is incredibly dark subject matter. If you may struggle with some of our more true crime topics that we do cover on the show, I highly recommend going back and listening to the Australian Aliens series that Taylor did. I thought it was very fun and a lot more lighthearted than what this is going to be. So
Yeah.
But you ready to get into it?
As ready as I can be.
All right. On April 15, 2023 at 2:48 p.m., with the next 60 seconds, 2 improvised explosive devices will detonate along the route of the 117th annual Boston Marathon, costing the lives of 3 people and injuring more than 500 others, and would be the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. Who was behind this attack? What were their motives? And what will become of them? This is the story of the Boston Marathon bombing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Went and did a lot of research for this. A lot.
Yes, you did.
It was a lot.
I want to say it was like 2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks of investigative stuff. And I'm now doing another 2 weeks of investigative stuff for another episode I'm doing. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I do it for you. I do it for all of you. Now, anyway. To fully unravel this horrific story and the people involved in it, we must travel back to post-World War II. At the time, the Soviet Republic of Kyrgyzstan, now its own independent country. There we find Anzor Tsarnaev and his wife Zubiet Tsarnaev, who were forcibly moved from Chechnya following the war, which created a power vacuum inside the country. After their forced implantation into the country, the Tsarnaev family had 2 daughters and 2 sons. Zhokhar Tsarnaev, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, born on August 21st, 1986, and Zhokhar Tsarnaev, born on July 22nd, 1993. And for the sake of the lack of, no confusion, Zhokhar, once we get further in the story, they obviously immigrate to the United States, and Zhokhar then goes by Zahar, which is what I'll be referencing him as for the remainder of the show. Now, as children, Tamerlan and Zahar lived in Tokmak, Kyrgyzstan, a place that was right on the northern edge of the country, its closest relative being that of Kazakhstan. But it wasn't for long, as the family once again relocated to Makhachkala, Dagestan in 2001, which is located in the Russian Federation, after a long bout of moving across Central Asia just before the birth of all the children. So they had been traveling pretty much everywhere nonstop.
Okay.
In April 2002, leaving Tamerlan in the care of a trusted uncle in the country, the Tsarnaev family, including Zahar, traveled to the good old USA for a 90-day tourist visa. During the stay, wish my keybinds work. During the stay, the father, Anzor, successfully applied for asylum after citing fears of deadly persecution due to his ties in Chechnya. And just 2 years later, the entire Tsarnaev family was settled on a quiet street in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But it was not a calm and peaceful street for the Tsarnaev family because, as we know, the American dream costs a lot of money. But being the hardworking parents they are, Anzor and Zubiet were quick to, get to work and start helping to raise their children in post 9/11 America. Anzor worked as a backyard mechanic in the back of a rug store, and Zubiet worked as a cosmetologist. So, yeah,
Okay.
kind of just got right to work.
Yeah.
Put their kids in school, got to work, started just kind of doing whatever they could do to make money. From what I remember, their house was not the best, naturally. Right.
Understandably,
But
yeah.
they definitely busted their ass to try to make things at least nicer.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely I look at this at least this section as like this is the American dream. What I imagine. I'm an American. I was born here, but I imagine this is the American dream.
Yeah.
Come to a country, you're like, hey, just want a house and just start working and see, make your own American dream.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do. And I feel very very patriotic when I think of stuff like this. It's very like, hell yeah, man, hard-working people. I just love it.
Yeah.
So, as for Jahar and Tamerlan, their lives as any new child in a modern America, Tamerlan, now age 16, attended Cambridge Regent and Latin School, a public high school, while Jahar, now age 9, attended Cambridge Port Elementary School and then Cambridge Community Charter School middle school program. That's shorten it out. Too long. During Jahar's time in high school, the same one his brother attended, he became known as an avid wrestler and a Greater Boston League winner all-star, which is a high school athletic conference. And on top of that, he worked as a lifeguard at Harvard University, later receiving a $2,500 scholarship from the city of Cambridge. So what I'm trying to preference here is that Jahar was very, very, very smart.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it.
Yeah, and as we progress further in the story, we'll talk about how smart he actually is. And then we'll talk about all the collusion that occurs.
Mm-hmm.
So, meanwhile, Tamerlan was making great strides as well. After going to Bunker Hill Community College between the years of 2006 and 2008, Tamerlan dropped out to concentrate on a different set of skills, boxing. And not only was he good, he was really good. So good that in 2009, Tamerlan went to the Golden Gloves National Tournament of Champions, say that 5 times fast, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Unfortunately, he lost to Lamar Fenner during his battle of the gloves, but as luck and skill would have it, in 2010, Tamerlan won the New England Golden Gloves Championship. Later that year, Tamerlan married a woman named Catherine Russell in a brief ceremony. What I'm trying to show you, and trying to show you, my co-host, is that Jahar and Tamerlan were living like a simple life.
Yeah.
Right? At least from the outside, right?
Yeah, they weren't doing anything crazy.
No, I mean, like, their life seemed exciting, but it, just was, I guess, like average American life, especially like an East Coast American life. Like, boxing is really big on the East Coast, and there's a lot, some of the most prestigious universities and colleges are out there.
Yeah.
Underneath the otherwise American veil of the Tsarnaev brothers, there was a growing flame, though. One that was ready to consume them whole, but once again, we need to back up a little bit. See, the brothers' lives weren't as peaceful as others may have thought.
No.
During his younger years, Tamerlan began to exhibit signs of increasingly erratic behavior, and a prime example of this was in 2007, where the now 21-year-old Tamerlan Tsarnaev assaulted a teen who had dated his younger sister, Bella. In the years when Jahar was in college, which we'll get to here in a moment, the Tsarnaev family actually separated and returned back to Dagestan separately, his mother and father, after his mother was arrested on a felony charges of shoplifting.
That's
and
a lot.
You have to get like can you do me a favor and look up how much stuff you have to steal to get a felony in shoplifting in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna guess it's somewhere in the thousands.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, it's
It's not a small amount, I'm sure.
no, it's not just like you stole a candy bar and then that's it.
It's $1,200 or more.
$1,200 or more worth of stuff to get a felony shoplifting charge.
Yes.
Okay, so
That's a lot.
yeah, so not great,
No.
but the problems don't seem to end there, as even before his marriage, Tamerlan as previously stated, had a knack for violence. Whereas in 2008, Tamerlan traveled to Bellingham, Washington, to, quote, straighten up the brains of his brother-in-law, Khrushchev, after his sister had stated that he engaged in physical violence and adultery. So he was pretty much down to go wherever and whenever to fucking fight somebody. He
literally traveled across the country to...
Yeah. I'm going to guess he took a plane there, because that'd be a long drive.
I assume he flew. It's
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yeah, that, and you're taking like Route 68, and you're just like stopping as tourist stops. By the time you get to Bellingham, you're like, why am I here?
Yeah, like it's just a couple days.
Oh, right.
Yeah. No, I think it was probably a flight.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would assume so. I don't know.
that would probably be the easiest way.
Well, so what are you going to Bellingham for, sir? I'm just going to go just beat the shit out of my brother-in-law. Well, sounds fun. We'll upgrade you to business class.
Sounds like you're there on business and not pleasure. So
Working hard or hardly working. He's just like, very funny.
like, guy is just apparently wants to fight everything. So
Yeah, he definitely likes to fight a lot. Well, and with all that, later that very year, a 911 call came to Cambridge police from Nadine Azasanko, Tamerlan's girlfriend at the time, reporting that Tamerlan had assaulted her. With the arrival of officers, Tamerlan was very quick to not dispute the claims, but instead doubled down, as he stated he had indeed slapped his girlfriend in the face because she was yelling at him about, quote, another girl. Naturally, he was arrested for aggravated assault, aggravated domestic violence, and battery, but eventually the charges were dismissed, but not without endangering Tamerlan's eventual citizenship application. Not only that, but once he was married, Tamerlan was known to, quote, fly into a rage and sometimes throw things or furniture during arguments, a sure sign that things weren't exactly going well inside the mind of Tamerlan.
no,
Yeah.
but also Jesus fucking Christ, throwing stuff around over arguments is
It's a bit much.
a bit,
It's a bit much, yeah. Yeah.
a lot. Instead
Yeah.
of just having a conversation like a normal person.
And looking at the photos of Tamerlan's apartment once the FBI does the raid, spoilers, wasn't really a lot in there to begin with.
I don't think I've seen those photos. So
It's like, you threw our one chair into the wall.
Maybe that's why he didn't have a lot of stuff, is because most of it ended up getting fucking thrown around by this guy.
It's like, oh, can I get you a drink? And then like they pull the fucking water thing like out of the wall, and they're like, here you go. Yeah, he wasn't a very nice guy.
No,
No.
sound like it.
No, not at all.
Immediately don't like him. So
Yeah, he's a fucking terrorist. So yeah, he's not.
well, I mean, like obviously with all of that stuff as well, but like right now, not including everything else. Not a great start.
Not a great start. No, not a. If this was just like this was the end of the story, I'd be like, man, what an asshole.
Yeah.
And don't worry, he continues to stay an asshole. Meanwhile, Jahar had enrolled in the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, majoring in marine biology with the intent of becoming a director, but later changed to nursing. Living in the dorms of the university, Jahar was described as normal and popular by fellow students. He's also described quite often as shy. He smoked a lot of weed, which he also sold on campus. He liked rap music and wasn't really a fan of getting into politics. It was around this time in his life that he was granted U.S. citizenship. Judging by Jahar's Twitter feed around this time, his biggest issues seemed to stem around cheeseburgers and sports. But once again, there was something hiding just beneath the haze of the smokescreen. See, Jahar and Tamerlan were inseparable following their parents, even before their parents' separation. Described by Tamerlan's former boxing coach, Jahar would follow him around like a lost puppy, quick to do whatever Tamerlan wanted or needed. Tamerlan, on the other hand, seemed to baby his little brother, often in overt displays of affection, such as picking him up and kissing him on the head when he would visit home from university. While this may not seem that unusual to most, that, you know, they're seeing a brother who's been gone for a while, you know, someone who you spent, you know, you're very close with, right?
Yeah.
To me, who studied the minds of killers and cult leaders for way too many hours. Way too many hours. Way too many hours. I see a form of love bombing.
Yeah.
Where someone displays overt signs of affection in order to persuade them with their ideology and beliefs, in order to shape them into whatever the individual needs, right?
Yeah.
Just being like, oh, you're awesome, you're the best, I love you so much, we should hang out, we should do this, and just like really like rope them in more and more and more.
Yeah.
And then eventually they're like, want to do something fucked up? And they're like, yeah, I'll do something fucked up with you, you're cool. That's basically what happens.
Yeah.
One thing that I seem to notice is from Jahar and Tamerlan is that they remind me a lot of Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris.
Yeah.
In the Columbine massacre, Eric Harris had this like desire to kill and cause untold mayhem, while Dylan had been described as this angry, depressive, and was more of a follower of Eric, willing to agree and go along with his plan. In my opinion, this is what seemed to happen to Jahar via Tamerlan. As Tamerlan's deep-seated hatred for the West began to grow, he expressed these beliefs to Jahar, who seemed to do and believe whatever his brother basically told him.
Right.
So, as Tamerlan's fire for extremism began to grow, he was removed from his mosque after repeated outbursts during the sermons. And during interviews with one of the leaders, they said it was like highly unsettling. Is that they have like a kind of a podium set up, and he would go up and he would just like rant and scream about the West and how it's like the ultimate sin. And meanwhile, everyone else is just trying to pray.
Yeah.
It'd be like, you know, going to your church, or, you know, I guess like the most, I mean, or I don't mean your church. What's another common thing? Like going to, you know, a place where you're just trying to have a peaceful moment to yourself to connect, you know, spiritually. I guess that'd be a church, but like, you know.
I mean, a church is a...
Yeah, it's a mosque, but I'm trying to think of like, you know, a religious site, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just a general religious site. And then some random dude that you vaguely know comes up and just starts spouting off shit of being like, we need to fucking kill these guys. It's a pretty bad look.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. So he was removed from the mosque pretty quickly following that. Feeling this alienation from his religion and society, or so he thought, Tamerlan began his deep spiral into what later surfaced in the attacks. One thing that I have learned about Chechen culture throughout this process is that the oldest son is put under lots of pressure by his parents. So as Tamerlan's dive into jihad began to grow, his mother began to encourage him, as she wanted him to really focus on his religion and then later jihad. So, not great.
Yeah.
But Tamerlan's and Jahar's mother is not the one to blame for their future crime, as a major inspiration came from a magazine. One that sounded like something you would find in a supermarket. Jahar would later admit in interviews that an online magazine called Inspire would play a huge part in the attacks. Now, Inspire is a publication created by the HGOP, also known as the Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. The HGOP began publishing Inspire in 2010, right around when Tamerlan's interest spike into jihad began. in the first issue, now infamous article titled "Make a Bomb in the Kitchen of Your Mom," which instructed would-be violent jihadists to use materials commonly found in household kitchens, such as a pressure cooker, to create IEDs, which is exactly what the Tsarnaev brothers would use during their attacks just a few years later. And this is just something they found just on the internet.
I can't say I'm not shocked.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
the internet tends to have a lot of not so great things on it.
Yeah, people tend to think that like the dark web is something you have to like get like a special access for and like do all this crazy stuff.
No.
It is just a Google search away. That is about it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you could Google search how to get onto the dark web and it would tell you pretty easy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Google AI would give you step-by-step instructions. Like,
Happy to help.
it's like, maybe don't do that.
Don't. Official statement from H.G.O. Don't do that.
Bad idea.
Yeah, don't do it. So while Tamerlane's hatred for the West began to grow even more, Jahar's motives seemed to be pretty much non-existent, other than him just following his brother. It's until we look at the grand scope of the story up to the point that we see that Jahar's mental state. Previously, I spoke about how Jahar was in university, in which he began to fail miserably at. That combined with his parents' divorce and eventual return to Dagestan, Jahar began to spend a lot of time with his brother, who he saw as the only family that he had left. And the months prior to the attack, he wrote a plea for reinstatement, citing his reasonings for his failure to the school as thus. Quote, "In the last year, I lost too many of my loved relatives. I was unable to cope with the stress and maintain schoolwork. My relatives live in Chechnya, Russia, a republic that is occupied by Russian soldiers that falsely accuse and abduct innocent men under false pretenses and terrorist accusations." How painfully ironic. "I'm at the point where I can finally focus on my schoolwork. I wish to do well in my country, especially my family members." This plea to the university seemed to be a false flag because just days after it was sent, Jahar texted a friend stating, "Come May, I'm out." His friend jokingly asked Jahar if he was going to go find a wife, but his reply was chilling. Quote, "I mean, there's only one option, bro. The highest level of jhana, which is paradise. Only the most pious of Muslims get into jhana, but there's an apparent shortcut to paradise according to proponents of jihad. You can become a martyr." Quote, "I got a plan," texted Jahar, and just a few months later, 2 bombs would detonate at the finish line of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Jesus.
Yeah. But it's just, looking, like, reading those texts again, it is very strange because it's the way he texts.
Yeah.
Is instead of being like 0, 1 E, like one option, it's like the number 1 option, bro. It's just very American,
Yeah.
just be like, "Oh, bro, fucking whatever, dude,"
Yeah.
But then while he's like secretly talking about how he's gonna commit terrorism,
That's crazy.
and it's just like, man, he was American. By the point he was in university, he didn't even have like an accent.
Yeah.
His brother did.
Well,
His brother came in when he was 16.
Right.
But yeah, Tamerlane or not Tamerlane, Jahar didn't have one at all.
I mean, that makes sense. It's one of those things that you immigrate when you're pretty young and you just don't have one.
Yeah. So after the attacks and the eventual raid on their property, where the brothers stayed, the laptop of Jahar was discovered. On the hard drive was the aforementioned Inspire magazine, a downloaded copy of Join the Caravan, a book written by Imam Abdullah Azam, the founding member of Al-Qaeda, who is considered the father of Al-Qaeda-style jihad, and hours of recorded speeches and videos of Al-Qaeda propaganda master Anwar al-Awkami, a U.S.-born Yemeni cleric who was known as the Osama bin Laden of the internet until the U.S. blew him into fucking pieces in 2011. So, the U.S. doing what the U.S. does.
That is what the U.S. does usually.
Have you seen their Ninja Blade missile?
No, I don't think so.
Pretty cool.
Maybe you've shown me it. I don't.
Just imagine, so the U.S. is really good at making stuff more dead.
Yeah.
Like, we were like, hey, we made this missile. Now it's even deadlier. They basically wanted to eliminate a guy who was like part of like an Al Qaeda terrorist cell,
Yeah.
but they were afraid of collateral damage, which is I find ironic from the U.S. government
Yeah.
being afraid of collateral damage.
Yeah.
Cut back to the early days of the global war on terror, but yeah, they literally created a missile that would like had no explosive material in it, but instead launched these like giant metal blades up the sides, and then they hit him when he was in a car.
Oh Jesus.
So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't think the governments can do something like that, they absolutely can, and they fucking will. Why am I so low? Hello?
You're slouched.
I am slouched. I'm slouching now. I'm a slouching guy.
I'm
I'm just gonna slowly rise.
I'm also a little slouched, but it's fine.
How's it going?
been because I wanna rest.
Either people watching the podcast.
I want to use the table as a footrest, and it's too far away, so I'm slouching so I can reach.
It is only after we analyze and process all this information that there is not one sole person who was in charge of shaping Tamerlan Jahar's minds and becoming violent jihadists, but an overarching and expanding system of jihadist propaganda found simply by a Google search. You take a man whose dreams of being an Olympian were crushed, a failure, and a boy who wanted to make change in the world but was too much of a lazy fuck and a simp for his brother to expose them to propaganda that says, hey, you can finally be something, and thus two would-be violent extremists are born. So, as we arrive in 2010, Tamerlan's dreams of being a boxer are over following a rule change, which basically said that you cannot box the U.S. Olympic team unless you're a U.S. citizen, and obviously his option of being a citizen was in danger because of the domestic violence charges.
Yep.
But by spring of 2010, like I said, Catherine Russell became pregnant with Tamerlan's child. And as I mentioned before, it is in 2010. It is around this time he gets married. And then October 2010, a new Tamerlan child is brought into the world. As one would imagine from two individuals who would later become terrorists, they had actually committed crimes before the events of the Boston Marathon and thereafter. See, on September 11th, 2011, three men, Brendan Mess, Eric Wiseman, and Raphael Tekin, were murdered inside Mess's apartment. The attack was so violent and done with such force that they were nearly decapitated from it.
It's insane.
Thousands of dollars worth of marijuana and money were left covering the bodies, or the bloodied remains of the men. It was clear to investigators that the motive wasn't money and that the killer and the victims knew one another. Even more peculiar was that Brendan Mess's friend, and was self-described by him nonetheless, being his best friend, was Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Post-bombing, the investigation into the deaths of three men was reopened, during which forensic evidence and cell phone records placed not only the two brothers, but a third man named Ibram Todashev at the scene of the murders. Ibram later was killed by law enforcement following an attempted interview with him on May of 2023 after he attacked officers. But it is said in his dying moments, he told law enforcement that him and the Tsarnaev brothers' goal was to rob the men, and that the only way to not get caught was to kill them. So, yeah.
Could have also just not
Robbed him.
Yeah, I mean, you could have not robbed them. You could have gone when they weren't home. There were options other than murdering your friends.
Oh, most certainly.
You know, if you're really gonna be a piece of shit and you're gonna rob somebody, do it when they're not home.
Yeah, just do it when they're not home. You hear from Taylor.
No,
if you're gonna rob someone, make sure they're not home.
No, I'm just saying, if you are going to be a piece of shit and you are going to try and rob someone, but you don't want to kill someone, there is absolutely an option of not killing them. That's crazy talk, I know. But you could just go when they're not home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then you wouldn't then you wouldn't be killing your friends. Okay.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to murder someone, I guess.
I think that is definitely the case. I think that the excuse of, well, in order to rob him, we had to kill him. I think that's fucking disgusting. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, so shortly after the murders, the brothers left the country for a few months and traveled back home to Dagestan. It was around the time of the murders that Russian security forces began to actually notice Tamerlan stemming from an incident that occurred with a man named William Plotnikov. And we're going to take a little side story here, and we're going to talk about William and what was going on with him and how eerily similar it is to Tamerlan.
Yeah.
So, little backstory. At the age of 16, William immigrated to the West, specifically Canada, after being raised and living in Western Siberia, an area of the Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. It's a lot of words.
There's a lot of words.
Very similar to Tamerlan. While in Russia, Vitaly, William's father, got William into boxing at the age of 9. William would go on to win the Russian Youth Championships twice. In 2008, the Plotnikovs immigrated to Canada. The move took a heavy toll on William, who seemed to struggle to adapt to his new life in Toronto. Surrounded by the often harsh teenage culture of the West, combined with the alcoholism of many members of Canada's Russian diaspora, William has spent a lot of time at the Thornhill Boxing Club, where he would go on to win silver medals in 2006 and 2007. Sound like a similar story to anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty familiar.
Sounds quite familiar. After graduating from high school, William joined Seneca College and traveled to other countries as part of the school's international tourism program. During this time, he began to reflect on his human existence. As many others, he looked for religion for answers. And around 2008 to 2009, William took interest in Islam, which in its most basic form is about living a life of peace, but it was not peace that he found, but, quote, a mullah who had very radical views. Soon, William adopted and observed strict Muslim customs, isolated himself from his families and friends, and pretty much just cut off all communication from there on. And by September of 2010, he disappeared, leaving a note stating he was going to France for Ramadan. By this point, he'd been considered a missing person for 2 years.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, after months, his parents were able to locate him, now living in Moscow with a friend from Toronto. Later, he traveled to Dagestan. It was around this time that William and Tamerlan met. Not a lot is known about what Tamerlan was actually doing in Dagestan around this time, as his relatives claim that he was like, oh, he was always with me. But nonetheless, William's father contacted the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs, which pretty much raided the house where William was staying, detained and interrogated him. Upon his release, what do you think William did upon his release? He gets raided by the Russians security forces, and they're like, hey, interrogate him, which I'm sure was a lovely conversation.
Yeah, that usually sounds great. Russia interrogating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you think you'd probably go home, right? No, he didn't go home. Of course not.
Why would he go home? He could just keep doing whatever the fuck he's doing.
Pretty much. So upon his release, William went back to Dagestan and joined an armed Islamist rebel group.
Oh, yes.
That's one does. But as these things go, at the stroke of midnight on July 13th, 2012, a force of Dagestani militants were ambushed and surrounded at a farm by Russian special forces who were tipped off by an informant. And thus began a long and violent gunfight that ranged long into the night. The Russian special forces started calling in artillery fire, which pretty much obliterated the house that they were at, the farm they were at, leaving 1 soldier and 7 militants killed in combat, one of which being William. He was also known as the Canadian. After his death, it was discovered that William had been a local contact for none other than Tamerlan Tsarnaev and presumably Jahar during their time in Dagestan, as when Tamerlan did go visit home quite often in Dagestan.
Yeah.
And occasionally Jahar would go with him, and he was described as like a celebrity. Because he's just like such a likable guy.
Okay.
Not Tamerlan. Tamerlan was a fucking asshole, but
his brother.
Yeah.
Likable.
Yeah, his brother was that. That's one thing that is one of the weird overarching parts of the story is how much everybody liked Jahar.
Yeah, that's weird, considering.
Yeah, like everybody who knew of Tamerlan was like when they heard that he was one of the bombers, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. But everybody was shocked that Jahar was even involved.
That's wild to me.
So, not only was, William a contact with Jahar and presumably Jahar and Tamerlan at their time in Dagestan, he was even actively assisting Tamerlan into getting into violent extremist organizations. Not only that, but Tamerlan was actually in country when William was killed and fled just 2 days after the event. With this, it seems that the final nail in the eventual coffin was laid. It had become clear to Jahar and Tamerlan that they had a mission. A goal that only two absolute losers could go do. Kill the innocents and become martyrs. So, we then finally arrive on April 15th, 2013, the 117th annual Boston Marathon. A day known for joy, fun, and strength and accomplishment for those not only running the race, but those also supporting racers. We talked about this in our previous attempt of recording this, of how like hard it is to get into the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. You have to qualify instead of like the usual just signing up for a race.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, some of the most accomplished and like respected like long distance runners in the world coming to the Boston Marathon Boston Marathon, and it's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah,
like
no, it's huge.
Yeah, and I knew that marathons were long. I've never done a marathon myself. Then I've done like a 5K like maybe twice. No, it's kind of like the same thing, but
not even close.
Looking at the route of how long people have to run, I was like, man, no, like, I don't want to do that at all.
I will be passing on that. Thank you.
Yeah, you just see people coming across the finish line. They're just like all gaunt and like exhausted. I was like, that doesn't look fun at all. You're all cramped up and.
Why are y'all doing that?
You're all cramped up and hurting. Yeah,
no, I'm good. Can I walk it? See you guys in like 3 hours.
How about instead of the marathon, I just drink 23 beers at each mile marker.
At each mile marker?
I can do it.
How many mile markers are there?
I think it's like 23 miles, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
You can power through. I'll do it for
23 beers at each mile marker.
I'm not going to drink 23 beers at each mile marker, but,
okay.
but a beer at each mile marker.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll die if I do that. I don't think
That's why I was like, that doesn't seem fucking possible. No, I don't understand.
I'm not fucking Andre the Giant. He had like the whole thing where you drink like 120 beers in one sitting or whatever. I don't know.
That's crazy.
We're getting off topic.
Also, it's 26.2 miles long.
I'm gonna start training
to drink your beers.
Yeah, 26 beers. So it was in a sea of thousands that two men loomed, carrying black backpacks and wearing contradicting black and white hats. Two men who were about to complete their mission of causing unimaginable harm to those who had nothing to do with anything. Two men who were soon about to take the lives of 4 people and injure hundreds. 2 p.m., Boylston Street. Jahar and Tamerlan walked through a thick crowd of spectators on their backs, being the 2 backpacks which contained 2 remote-controlled pressure cooker bombs, filled with things like nails and metal BBs. As the Tsarnaev brothers approach the finish line, they begin to scope out their bombing grounds. This is actually one of the first times they were captured on CCTV and in photographs. Tamerlan proceeds to leave Johar in the crowd as he makes his way closer to the finish line, dropping off a device at 671 Boylston Street directly in front of the Marathon Sports Store. Meanwhile, Johar places the device in front of the 755 Boylston Street directly in front of the Forum restaurant, which at the time is packed full of people watching the race. And at 2:49 p.m., the first bomb detonates, engulfing spectators and a hail of metal projectiles and fire. Johar is actually seen on CCTV footage around this time, and he glances towards the direction of the blast and proceeds to quickly make an exit as onlookers gaze at the confusing scene. And 13 seconds after the initial bomb, Johar detonates his device. The footage of this is horrific. It is a literal wall of flames that erupts from the center of this crowd, engulfing men, women, and children in a hail of shrapnel and fire. And I can't preference it like enough how fucking quick it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the movies when people think of the explosions like all slow and it's like
Yeah.
no, it's just people. You see people like drinking, like all joshing around, drinking their beers, and they all kind of look towards where the first bomb that Tamerlan had set.
Mm-hmm.
And then within 13 seconds, the footage is just and it just flames. That's all you see.
It's
So quick.
It's very quick.
Yeah, it's fucking terrifying. But it's as if they've done it 1,000 times over. The Tsarnaev brothers just casually walk back the way they came, leaving death and dismemberment and violence in their wake. Within moments, first responders began to react. There's definitely devices here. There's definitely devices here. We need all units. Send me everyone you got. Could be heard screaming from radios as police, fire, and emergency medical personnel flooded onto the scene. There was mass panic as those who were not affected by the blast fled from the site, with concerns of a third bomb. Meanwhile, the streets were painted in the blood of hundreds as it leaked onto what was calm streets just moments before. Civilians, military personnel who happened to be on scene to help with the event, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, friends, family began to tear away the barricades as they attempted to triage those who were severely and heavily wounded. Victims affected by the blast sustained burns, penetrating trauma from shrapnels, and traumatic amputations. Some people, because people weren't obviously prepared for a mass casualty event of this nature.
Right.
And one of the EMTs didn't have a tourniquet that she could use in that exact moment. So she took off her own belt and used it to tourniquet somebody's leg as it was basically falling off.
You do what you gotta do.
It's fucking horrific. Yeah, it's a horrific scene.
Yeah. No, that's insanity.
But it was only the beginning of a horrific nightmare as reports began to flood in that there was possibly other devices on scene. Within minutes following the attack, Boston Police Department began to deploy their EOD, Explosive Ordnance Division, and SWAT teams, Special Weapons and Tactics. Over the next 5 hours, these teams had checked and cleared 61 suspected IEDs. Fucking insane.
That's insane.
6 minutes following the attack, Boston EMS began to broadcast requests for any and all available, totaling 9 companies or 73 ambulances to respond to the scene. And then minutes following that, a local hospital began to prepare what will become the largest mass casualty event in Boston's modern history. At 2:56 p.m., a fire erupted at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library, a mere 15-minute drive from the blast site. Growing concerns that the assailants of the attack might be causing more mayhem, local law enforcement, fire, and emergency medical services flooded the scene. Post-investigation, the fire later determined the fire was actually caused by a careless smoker who didn't properly dispose of their cigarette, but the damage was done. Boston and the surrounding area was locked in a death grip of terror. But back on the scene, the chaos continues. And I do want to just take a moment to seriously applaud every first responder, military personnel, civilian, and anyone who stepped up to assist those that injured at the time of the attack. It's truly a bright light in a very dark time, not knowing if they too would be killed in an explosion. These people worked to get all the critically injured into ambulances, and around 40 minutes after the first bomb had detonated, the last critically injured patient was en route to the hospital via ambulance. People busted their asses
so fast.
And I think if people weren't as eager to help one another after the attacks,
Yeah,
I think the death toll would have been a lot higher.
I agree. Yeah.
Who knows how many people were saved from,
Quick action.
yeah, well, just like, from blood loss, just by someone coming up and merely just taking a belt or wrapping something around a wound, or
Yeah.
just
No,
or even just talking to someone, keeping them awake.
Yeah, that was fast. I mean, for the amount of people that were injured, especially critically, to have, you said 45 minutes?
It took 40 minutes after the first bomb had detonated.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
That was fast.
For reference, in this recording right now, we're 46 minutes in.
Yeah.
So
we've been talking longer than it took them to.
Mhm.
That's wild.
yeah, they were on top of their shit, and I applaud them. I will applaud them forever.
Yeah.
Absolute legends. But it's one thing that is forgotten about the time at this time of the event that the race was still active. Meaning those who were in the back of the pack, so to speak, had no idea what the hell was happening just a few blocks away as they arrived. Runners were directed to alternate meeting locations as first responders stemmed in. Those who had worked in the area or who had not seen the attack were left to only speculate what could have happened. But the answer would soon become clear as the injured were carried off scene. What remained was 3 people. 29-year-old Medford, Massachusetts native Chris Lee Campbell, who was killed in the initial explosion set by Tamerlan. 23-year-old Lingzi Liu, a student who had come to Boston from China to study at Boston University. And 8-year-old Martin Richard, whose family has helped raise over $2 million via the organization following the attack, were killed when Jahar's device detonated. Leaving a sea of death in their wake, the Zonaya brothers arrived back at Tamerlan's apartment just 25 minutes following their horrific acts, after stopping at the store so Jahar could buy milk. Which is one of the most infuriating sets of footage I've seen, because he just walks in so fucking casually.
Yeah.
Not a care in the world. He goes up and he's picking up milk and he's like, yeah, I'll get this one. And then goes up, pays his cash, conversates with the clerk. And it's like, he in his mind, he just killed 100 people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a fucking care in the world for him.
No.
It's insane. So they then get back to the apartment. They sit on the couch and start watching the ongoing media coverage. Jahar would go as far as to tweet about the events at the marathon, stating that he would pray for those injured. Now, I'm not sure if he did this because he genuinely felt sorry at the time for those he had killed, or if he was just trying to create another layer to the illusion that he was an average American. And we discussed this previously.
Yeah, I think it was just another layer, because honestly, if he felt sorry, right, I don't think he would have stopped for milk. I don't think he would have. I don't think that there was any remorse for what he did, or any concern or care for the lives that were taken, or the people who were injured. I don't think he actually cared. I don't at all.
I think, in my opinion, that he did have a semblance of like grief, but not in the sense that he was like upset that he killed a lot of people. I think he was upset that well, now my life is over, you know?
Yeah.
Because from here on out, it's fucking all downhill for the brothers.
Yeah. I don't think that there was any thought there of like, because I mean, right at this moment, they've gotten away with it. They've not been caught. They've not had anything traced back to them at this particular moment. I don't think there was any remorse there, or like even for like his life, being quote unquote over. I don't think it was there.
So you think it was a false flag situation?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I really do.
I don't know. It's hard for me to. I don't know. It's one of those things where like he definitely meant to do what he meant to do, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think of 9-year-old Jahar moving to the U.S. and by the time he's in college, he's basically just an average American, right? And he's so like he's just part of Western culture by this point.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like he did have some semblance of remorse for it, but not enough to turn himself in.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there was anything there in his head. I mean,
I look at it as like a school shooter, right? Who goes and kills a bunch of people, right?
Right.
And then they have a bunch of remorse, right?
Yeah.
Like, they still fucking did it. And we don't need to feel sorry for them, right?
Yeah.
And I think he just is like, man, that was really fucked up, but I just did. But sticking to his guns.
Yeah, I don't know. I
don't know. You let us know what you think as we continue the story. Within the first 2 hours of the attack, Ed Davis, Boston Police Commissioner, understood that this was a huge event and that they needed help. Calling upon Rick DeSaleras, the FBI special agent in charge, Rick mobilized a massive attack group of fellow agents who soon began to flood the scene and assist those already on scene, also known as the JTTF, better known as the Joint Terrorism Task Force. JTTF is not somebody to fuck around with.
No.
So, under the guidance of the FBI, the local law enforcement began to flood airports in hopes of recovering photos of the scene prior to the bombings, hoping that someone had got photos of the attackers on their cameras prior to the detonation. Law enforcement would later reaffirm this in a press conference just hours after the attack. While law enforcement were either securing the crime scene or attempting to recover digital evidence, the FBI, and with the help of Boston police, set up a location known as Black Falcon Terminal, a massive warehouse located at the docks, which would become the recovery area of significant items of interest, which would be held for processing at Quantico, Virginia. And Black Falcon Terminal is probably one of the fucking coolest names for a place that I assume is probably a CIA black site in the United States.
Probably.
Yeah, it's like, you go like, we're gonna go to Black Falcon Terminal. It's like, is that a cool nightclub? And they go, no.
Absolutely not.
It's certainly gonna be at night. So hundreds of items began to flow into the warehouse, painting the otherwise gray room in a sea of brown and beige boxes and bags. A massive, massive undertaking for crime scene investigators. It's now 5 hours post-bombing. Police would soon get their first lead. A reported suspicious person who had been accompanied back to the emergency room. See, during the initial attack, a Saudi national emerged from the smoke, bloodied with tattered clothes. As officers went to contact this man, he smashes his phone on the ground. And this is seen as suspicious, as phones are often used as like detonator devices, or devices to detonate bombs. And naturally, the fucking media latches onto this and begins to swarm this. Police went in as far as to secure a search warrant for the man's home and used a SWAT team to raid it. But eventually they found nothing of interest. He was just a victim. But in the age of Islamophobia, anyone and everyone was a potential threat. By the nightfall of the attacks, Kevin Swindon, the FBI's premier special agent of the Cyber Division, came to help process thousands of video and photo evidence. Not only that from spectators, but racers and shops and street cameras, news crews, the teams that were recording the race, because it's, like I said, it's a major event.
Yeah.
Like, it's televised. It's insane. And then over 120 phones alone were recovered from Boylston Street. So Kevin and his team had, like, an untold amount of things they needed to take care of.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty much like kind of underselling it. I'm talking like tens of thousands of photos.
Oh yeah, because
hours upon hours of video.
This is the Boston Marathon is such a big event that you have so many news crews with different cameras. You have all the people there. I mean, I don't know what the average amount of people who show up to the event is, but I can only imagine it's a lot.
Well, let me put it this way: in the city of Boston, which is where it happened on Patriots Day. Patriots Day is like only celebrated in a few places in the U.S., right? There are two things to do during Patriots Day.
Right.
It's go see the Boston Red Sox or go to the marathon, and then later in the day, you go see the Bruins, right?
Yeah.
It's a day of sports. So, like, you're at one of these two locations. You're either watching baseball or you're watching people run.
Yeah.
You watch people run around a diamond, watch people run down the street, and then run on ice. So it's like that's what's everybody's doing. So everybody's
right.
Hundreds of thousands of people.
I just looked it up. So the Boston Marathon typically attracts around 30,000 runners and up to 500,000 spectators. So
wow.
You take all of that into consideration, along with all the businesses along the route that have security cameras, your news crews. It's a lot of footage to go through.
That's crazy. 500,000 spectators?
Yeah.
You said 30,000 runners?
Up to 30,000. 2024, there were 25,554 official finishers of the race.
That's insane. That's an insane amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen that many people in my life.
Much less in like one place.
Yeah, in one place. Yeah, that's insane. So, all the while, hundreds of miles away, John Foley, who would soon become the assistant special agent in charge of the case, was enjoying a nice vacation with his family as he was set to retire. Now, this side of the story is completely not important. I just love this side of the story because I just love this interview. So, John and his family, they get out of the Grand Canyon area, and he starts getting phone reception and quickly gets news of the attack. Kevin and his wife watch footage of the marathon bombing, and as if it was written in the movie, Kevin's wife turns to him and goes, "Go get these motherfuckers." And within a few hours, Special Agent Foley was in Boston, joining the most literal form of the Justice League, a force of hundreds of the best law enforcement in the country. Under the guidance, Foley and DeSalera's, the JTTF was ready to fucking hunt down the Zarnaya brothers. What a cool wife.
Yeah.
Go get these motherfuckers. Like, oh, dude, you're so fucking cool. So sick.
Yeah.
So, as the sun began to rise on Boylston Street the morning following the attack, investigators began to focus and process the scene. The street was filled with men in white Tyvek suits, discovering metal BBs and nails that were everywhere. Victims' personal belongings, and items even thrown on nearby rooftops from the powerful blast. But there were two significant items of interest: 2 shredded backpacks. They knew pretty much immediately that these bags most likely held the devices of death. As they scoured the scene, investigators discovered the lid of the pressure cooker used in the attack on a roof of a multi-level building. If that doesn't tell you how fucking powerful these things were, I don't know what does.
No, that's
It's a multi-level building.
That's insanity.
It's insanity. A major breakthrough comes for investigators as footage from the forum is recovered. In the footage, spectators can be seen enjoying beer and cocktails, as is the Boston tradition of drinking during the day. Just as Kevin Swindon and his team were analyzing the video, a member of the public came forward stating that they had a series of photos from the race directly across from the forum just moments before the attack. And as we look at the otherwise unremarkable photo, we see just that. A barricade lined with people enjoying their Patriots Day in style. But to the trained eyes of investigators, it was a clear photo of a backpack containing the second device that was used in the attack. Swindon and his team began to cross-reference the timestamp of the photo with that of the CCTV from the forum. Soon, a skinny male with curly hair and white cap came into frame. Looking around, but not really looking at anything at all, the subject placed down his backpack just behind a row of people, all the while texting. This man was known as White Hat at the time to investigators, but will later be identified as Jahar Tsarnaev. The team began to trace the path of Jahar as he approached the scene, and as they did, they discovered footage of a nearby business on the corner where a man known as Black Hat at the time would be seen just ahead of Jahar, also carrying a similar backpack. This would be none other than Tamerlan Tsarnaev. Investigators were finally able to see the faces, while grainy, of the two men who were at fault for one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in U.S. history, and the hunt was now on. But even with the photos of the attackers, investigators seemed to struggle with the idea of whether or not they should even release the photos to the media. Basically, do investigators work behind the scenes to try to identify these guys without them knowing, or do they release the photos to the media and hope that someone comes forward with a tip before they have time to react? It's a huge risk, huge reward situation.
Right.
But for the task force, their hand was about to be forced as someone had leaked the video screenshots from CCTV cameras of the brothers to the media, who were then planning on broadcasting it, because of course they are.
Yeah, the media always releases whatever they have.
Always. They will always continue to do that. They love fucking up investigations.
Yeah, they sure do.
The task force begrudgingly then calls on an emergency press conference. Rick DeSalaris took the podium and was tasked with showing the world the men who would soon be known as the Tsarnaev brothers. This is day 3 in the investigation, but to back things up, after the attacks, Tamerlan and Jahar went on his business as usual. Tamerlan continued to be a stay-at-home dad to his daughter, and Jahar returned to his dorm room at the university. Jahar was described as relaxed by his friends, as he did his usual routines, smoking weed, using the college gym, and sleeping in his dorm. But as the JTF press conference took place, Jahar and Tamerlan quickly reunited with one another, heading over to an apartment of a family member in Cambridge. There, they recovered 5 IEDs, pipe bombs and a pressure cooker bomb, ammunition, and a semi-automatic handgun and a machete. Ready to continue the rampage as they had started just days earlier. The evening following the press conference, shots ring out on the Massachusetts Institute of Technology campus, also known as MIT. A concerned student dials 911 and reports suspected shooting to campus police, stating that there is already an officer here. Naturally, dispatch attempts to contact this officer, Officer Sean Collier, for an inquiry, but fails to get a response. They begin to challenge Officer Collier's radio, which is a process where dispatch will call an individual's unit number,
Right.
In order to trigger a response. If they do not get a response in a certain amount of time, it's considered like an on-call. But basically, like, hey, we need to have somebody go check him out because they think there's a problem happening.
Right.
And they challenge Officer Collier's radio. He does not respond. An additional unit is dispatched to the scene, and with moments of their arrival, the task force's worst nightmare has just taken place. Officer down, all units. is heard broadcasting on the net. This was not just a random act of violence. Investigators would soon discover CCTV video of two men, the Zornaya brothers, approaching Collier while he was inside of his vehicle. Walking casually, as they were students going back to their dorm, they walk up to his driver's side window, and just for a moment you see Collier's brake lights activate. But it was too late, as Tamerlan fired multiple rounds into Collier, striking him in the upper region of his body. The brothers then attempt to steal Collier's duty pistol, but failed to do so, as his retention holster, which made it locked in place, made it unable for them to take it. They quickly panic and run back the way they came and get back in Tamerlan's vehicle. Following the murder, a literal sea of law enforcement floods onto the scene, including members of the JTTF. Meanwhile, see, we're doing a lot of jumps here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Danny Mang was passing by the area in his black Mercedes SUV and observed the swarm of blue lights, remarking that, quote, it looked quite serious. But little did Danny know, he was about to become a major part in this story. During Danny's drive, he receives a text message. Being a responsible driver, Danny pulls over to the side at 55 Brighton Avenue. And then he starts responding to this text message as a black four-door vehicle pulls up behind him. A man exits and proceeds to walk up to his passenger side door. Being the good-natured man Danny is, he thought the man may be lost and looking for directions. Danny then kind of rolls down the window a little bit, right? To speak to the guy. And the guy gestures to roll down the window a little bit more.
Yeah.
And a little bit more. And then within a moment, the guy reaches in, unlocks the door, gets inside, and points a pistol at him. Danny was now sitting side by side with none other than Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who was pointing a pistol at him.
Yeah.
In a chilling moment, Danny starts to, plead for his life, right? And Tamerlan just states, I can kill you anytime I want to, just start driving. And thus, the Tsarnaev brothers had a hostage. They started driving through Watertown. Jahar followed in Tamerlan's vehicle behind them. Tamerlan then ordered Danny to pull over on a dark and deserted street, taking Danny's keys out of the ignition so he couldn't flee, and forced him into the passenger seat. The brothers then began to ferry items and boxes from Tamerlan's vehicle into Danny's black Mercedes SUV, and within moments, the brothers and Danny were driving yet again with Tamerlan behind the wheel, Danny in the passenger seat, and Jahar in the backseat. And Danny said that they spoke in a language he didn't quite understand, or didn't understand at all.
Yeah.
And there was kind of like this argument back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And as they drove, Tamerlan looked at Danny and says, do you know who I am? And Danny replies with a quick and resounding no. And as if he was proud of his work, Tamerlan stated, I did the Boston Marathon bombing and we just killed a cop in Cambridge. And I can't imagine what was going through Danny's head at this moment. Like, the two most wanted men in America are now driving your car, holding you hostage, and, you don't know whether or not you're going to survive. But Danny pretty much sums it up in this moment up in his interview by basically thinking, oh shit is right, Danny.
Yeah.
That is the most ultimate oh shit moment. So the three men then begin to drive all around Watertown. They paused their drive for a brief moment to stop at an ATM so Jahar could use Danny's card to withdraw some cash. They take back off. Tamerlan asked Danny if his car could make it to New York. It seems that the brothers' plan was to try to make it to the Big Apple, possibly to commit more bombings. Danny knew that if the brothers got on the highway, they'd most likely kill him, dump his body, and drive to New York. But this is one of the first times that somebody actually outsmarts the Tsarnaev brothers, as he goes, oh, well, actually, my car is pretty low on gas. We should stop at a gas station and fill up before the long haul, right? The brothers agree and begin to drive all around looking for an open gas station, as most were closed around this time, and end up finding one in Cambridge The same area where they had just killed Officer Collier just hours prior. As they arrive, Jahar exits the vehicle and heads inside to pay for the fill-up because it's a cash-only place. But then Danny seems to notice something. Tamerlan has stopped pointing his weapon at him and put it back in his pocket. Danny ponders for a moment and pretty much just says, fuck it, and takes the seatbelt off, unlocks the door, and bails at the passenger seat and starts running as fast as he can for a different gas station across the street, narrowly dodging Tamerlan as he attempts to block him getting out of the car. He actually said that he felt Tamerlan's fingertips touch his back as he tried to grab his shirt.
Crazy.
I mean, a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
Right? Danny pretty much just dives into this business, right? Scaring the hell out of the lone employee and starts yelling to call 911, stating the bombers were in his car. Tamerlan, meanwhile, fucking panics, right? He sprints into the gas station where Jahar had just entered, and the pair quickly get back into Danny's SUV and they take off. Danny had just come face to face with the Boston Marathon bombers and lived to tell the tale. As police arrive on scene, Danny tells officers that his SUV has a unique feature that the brothers aren't aware of. See, Danny was really, really proud of this Mercedes. It was his first car, right? And he got all the features, one of which being real-time tracking GPS. The brothers didn't know this at the time, but they were effectively fucked because Danny, being the man who loved his car so much, actually memorized the serial code to his GPS.
That's crazy.
Which
That's
I can't remember my fucking license plate, let alone a serial code like number.
I remember my ID number, but it's taken. I've had the same one for years, so it's taken me years to memorize it.
Yeah,
like
it's I don't know. He memorized this GPS like code, which is, I think it's crazy. And so police were able to track this car pretty much immediately, and they followed it into Watertown. So Sergeant John McClellan and Sergeant Jeff Pileski and Officer Joe Reynolds of the Watertown Police Department are on separate routine patrols when a call for of the stolen SUV came out over the radio, reporting at 93 Dexter Avenue. Officer Reynolds attaches himself to the call, stating he'd go check it out, as the initial report stated that it was just an armed Grand Theft Auto. It was on Dexter Avenue that Officer Reynolds and the Zarnaya brothers would make first contact as they drove slowly by one another, making eye contact through the windshield, which is highly unsettling.
Yeah.
Highly, highly unsettling. As Officer Reynolds turned around and began to slowly follow the vehicle, stating he was going to make a traffic stop, Sergeant McClellan was just turning around the corner as Reynolds activated his lights because they wanted to basically light him up at the same time to do like a felony stop, right?
Yeah.
But what McClellan saw as he made this turn was Tamerlan standing in the middle of the street, raising his weapon and firing, starting what would be a gunfight that rivals that of the North Hollywood shootout. Both officers began to return fire against Tamerlan as additional units began to scream towards the scene. In a moment, straight out of Hollywood, they're having this insane gunfight, right? Sergeant McClellan came up with this incredible idea. He jumped into his squad car, put it into drive, and let the car roll towards the attackers with the idea that they could at least see how many attackers there were, because he figured that they were going to shoot at the vehicle, right?
Yeah.
It's a fucking insane idea, but it works. As the vehicle approaches, McClellan saw Tamerlan, who was in the front of the SUV, firing, while Jahar was slightly bent over and kind of leaned over and proceeded to throw something towards the officers. Sergeant McClellan remarked that he thought, "Oh, he's throwing sticks at us." He had this kind of like whimsical, like kind of like, what a weird moment. The guy's throwing sticks at us, you know? But it was as the item hit the ground, it made a loud and resounding metal ting noise. It wasn't a stick. It was a fucking pipe bomb, which detonated inches from the car.
Jesus.
in an incredible explosion. Finally, additional law enforcement arrive on scene and begin to return fire in what would be described as a war zone. Eyewitness cell phone footage of this gunfight is insane. To make matters worse, residents begin to come out of their home during the event, hoping to catch a glimpse of what's going on. And Sergeant McClellan actually talked about how he had to tell a guy to go back in his home 3 times. 3 times.
That's
During this
a lot of
gunfight.
times.
And the guy was like, oh, let me know if I can do anything to help. And McClellan was like, unless you got 40 cal ammo, you better fuck off.
Like, listen, I'm nosy, but I'm nosy from inside my house. So, like, I'm just, like, peeking through windows or, like, through the peephole of the door.
I don't know, dude. If I'm hearing the sounds of just insane amounts of gunfire come from outside, I'm getting fucking low, dude.
Yeah, no, luckily we've not had that happen. Usually I'm just nosy of, like, you know, like, there's lights. I see the lights and I'm like, what the fuck is going on out there? Other than that, I mean, we haven't really had like any crazy serious things.
Not a lot of gunfights on our street.
That's because most of our neighbors are older.
Doesn't matter. Old people still getting gunfights. So, as Sergeant Puglisi arrives on scene, he can hear McClellan screaming, "Give it up, give it up," as he returns fire from behind a tree, still trying to talk the brothers down, who answered with more gunfire and threw more pipe bombs. They were not going to give it up. As the firefight continues, McClellan stated he witnessed Jahar get out of the SUV carrying an item with both hands and proceeded to throw it into the direction of officers. That item would be the final bomb of the Tsarnaev brothers' arsenal, one almost identical to that used 80 hours prior, a pressure cooker bomb. And it detonated, casting a flame so bright it lit the street of white as if it was noon.
Jesus.
In a sheer moment of incredible luck, another moment of incredible luck, the lid on the bomb was not secured all the way, which actually limited the explosion, saving the lives of the officers. Not only that, but when it detonated, it actually detonated it towards a car and lodged itself into a car.
God.
Probably stemming like a lot of the blast.
Oh yeah.
The quick thinking Sergeant Puglisi then decides it's his turn to fuck these dudes up. Puglisi then runs around the backside of the home, getting flanked on the brothers. Being the firearms instructor for the department, Puglisi isn't known for missing his shots. That's what I'm trying to say here. As he comes around the side of the home, he has a clear visual of the brothers and begins to return slow and accurate fire. He basically gets up on it, boom, pulls the trigger, right?
Yeah.
Impact. Nothing. Boom, pulls it. Impact. Boom, impact. It's that slow. He's shooting rounds that slow. Super, super slow. Right? He hits Tamerlan 9 times with no reaction. Tamerlan finally seems to then notice Puglisi after he's hit with his 9th bullet. Tamerlan then begins to close the distance between him and Puglisi, and they get within 6 feet of each other as they engage in a gunfight. Luckily for the sergeant, Tamerlan fucking sucks at shooting. And the bullets, once again, in a moment of just sheer incredible luck, bullets just zip past him.
That's insane.
Inches from him. Don't hit him. Right? And then all of a sudden, Tamerlan pulls the trigger and nothing happens. And Puglisi talks about it in his interview where Tamerlan just kind of stops, looks down at his gun, looks back at Puglisi, and then throws his gun at him, striking the sergeant in his shoulder with the weapon. The only time he ends up hitting the sergeant with anything.
And even then, it's not.
What a mind fuck though, of just like you're like this guy's just trying to kill me, and then he's just like, and like throws his gun at you, and you're like, what the fuck, dude?
That's insanity.
Tamerlan then just kind of turns towards the officers who had just been firing at him just moments before and proceeds to run at them. And as Tamerlan approached Sergeant McClellan, he locked eyes with him as what can only be described as a speed walk, as I assume his blood loss was significant by this point. But Pugliese was having none of that and charged Tamerlan from behind and tackled him in the street. Pugliese then attempted the ever-combative Tamerlan. Meanwhile, McClellan runs up and he's out of ammo. And he goes, this dude's still combative. He's been shot 9 times. He's not going down. And he was like, there's only one thing I can do, and starts to pistol whip the shit out of Tamerlan. I mean, as hard as he can, taking the end of the magazine well of his gun and just ramming it into his face over and over and over and over again. Kicking the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Like, bad. And as he's doing that, Officer Reynolds then alerts the sergeants that the vehicle the suspect had just been in is now started, and it's turned back around towards them. Jahar had gotten behind the wheel of the vehicle, turned it towards officers, and begins to accelerate towards them. McClellan pushes Pugliese back as the SUV misses them by inches, and they described feeling the wind as it passed by them. He didn't hit any officers, but Jahar did hit someone. Tamerlan. Jahar began to unwittingly drag Tamerlan down the street. Eventually, he's splitting his body some 20 feet from the initial impact. Jahar raced down the street as units at the intersection began to open up with a literal sea of gunfire into his vehicle. But Jahar somehow makes it through and eventually gets out of sight of officers, abandoning his vehicle as he fled on foot. By this point, the FBI, including Assistant Special Agent in charge John Foley, arrive on scene. The members of the JTTF and just about every single fucking cop in the area begins to run down the street with the SUV now lay abandoned. But Jahar had disappeared into the night. For now. Tamerlan had significant traumatic injury. He was described as being split from shoulder to stomach.
Jesus.
Presumably by the underside of the vehicle that his brother was driving. And he was actually transported, still alive, to Boston Trauma Center, where some of his victims were actually being treated at. Upon arrival, Tamerlan was pronounced dead, killed at the hands of his own brother. The FBI were able to identify Tamerlan via his fingerprints, find the former inquiry into him, and with that, they finally had the names of the Boston Marathon bombers, Jahar and Tamerlan Tsarnaev. As the sun began to rise the following morning, tips of where Jahar may have fled began to come in. A cab driver stated that he had actually driven a Chechen national to the train station into Boston in the early morning hours. Soon after, it was received that there was a suspected pipe bomb found nearby. This created an almost like another scene of panic in the city once again, as nobody knew if there was actually another bomb or if Jahar even made it out of the area. Back in Watertown, federal, state, and local police and their SWAT teams, being 2,500 officers in total, began to conduct door-to-door searches, flipping open trash cans, going alley to alley, searching any open garages. Anything that was open was being checked. While this was happening, the FBI conducted a search warrant on Tamerlan's home. Inside, they found bomb-making materials, Al-Qaeda propaganda, and Catherine Russell, Tamerlan's wife, who was less than cooperative with them. She somehow was able to avoid any charges from the plot, as there was not enough evidence to connect her to anything in the end. I don't know. I have thoughts.
She knew.
You
can't not know.
Yeah. It is my personal belief that she knew. That I will leave that at that. Simultaneously, the Massachusetts State Police began to mobilize their SWAT and EOD teams to the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth for a raid on Jahar's apartment. The FBI even sent a Black Hawk helicopter located with most elite members of their HRU team, which is the hostage rescue team, which those guys are fucking insane. They get to the school. Once there, they deploy, conduct this raid, and come up empty-handed, only finding his roommates. 99 hours post-bombing, as a shelter-in-place is lifted in Watertown, and people are literally collapsing of exhaustion. Like, SWAT officers are going to hospitals, officers are going to hospitals. Everybody's been up for days. Everybody's just tired. And President Obama calls the mayor of Boston and goes, "Hey, we can't let people live in fear, for an untold amount of time. We got to lift the shelter in place." All right. So they lift the shelter in place, and then hours after that, a resident dials 911. Quote, "I saw blood on the outside of my boat in my backyard. I went out there to go look. There was somebody in it." Law enforcement then slowly and quietly began to drive to an address known as 67 Franklin Street, just 1 block from where Jahar had abandoned the car. Once it was determined that there was, in fact, someone hiding under the boat, literally everyone responded. Shelter in place is immediately put back into place. SWAT teams, canine units marked, undercover, state, federal, local, everybody was now on 67 Franklin Street. And as chaotic as it was, it got even more chaotic when someone fires off a round, which causes a phenomenon known as sympathetic fire, which is a phenomenon where officers are more likely to fire a shot when one of their peers fires a shot at a target, but not themselves actually feeling in danger. And this causes over 126 rounds to impact this boat. They had stated that they had seen Jahar point a pistol from under the canopy of the boat, and he didn't have a gun. He didn't have a gun. But one thing that is also important to note is that this wasn't a one-time occurrence. This happened over the course of an hour. So it wasn't 126 shots all at once.
Yeah.
It was a volley of gunfire, and then pause for a little bit. And then another volley of gunfire. Yeah. Meanwhile, he's just laying in there. Like, he's just getting fucking just lit up.
Huh.
It's so funny. Fuck him. I hate this guy. But this is the thought of like being like the person in charge being like, "Everybody ceasefire." And then somebody's like, bang. And you're like, "Oh fuck."
There it all goes
like,
again.
"Oh god, ceasefire." Ceasefire. Fuck, man. Meanwhile, the one guy's like, "My boat." My fucking boat, man. Come on.
Well.
So, not knowing if the suspect in the boat was dead or alive, the state police flew their air asset over the scene, scanning it with their forward-looking infrared system, also known as a FLIR system, which has like heat signature on it, right? They confirmed that Jahar was in fact inside the boat, and he was still, in fact, moving. Jahar had somehow managed to escape death once more. The state police decided their plan of action was to approach the boat with an armored personnel carrier, also known as a Bearcat, which had a long ram on the front. Using the Bearcat, the police used the long ram to rip the boat's canopy away, exposing Jahar to the open air. The FBI started doing FBI things, started launching tear gas into it pretty much immediately, right? And it's a small, confined area. So these things are going off inches from him, right? Going off right next to him. After a few hours of not really getting anything, nothing's really happening, right? They decide that, okay, we need to come up with a new plan. So they actually contact the Watertown Fire Department and bring one of their fire trucks over because they're about to use flashbangs, which are incendiary devices. The reason they bring a fire truck over is because, once again, Jahar is in a boat, which is full of gasoline.
Right.
They were basically concerned that they were going to blow him into pieces, which is just insane. But they start doing it anyway. And they start launching flashbangs next to him. I'm talking right next to him. And they do this for a while. Like a long time. Meanwhile, negotiators are just trying to talk to him, trying to communicate with him. And As night began to fall on the once quiet Franklin Street, negotiators were able to speak with Jahar for the very first time. After hours of negotiations, Jahar slowly rises out of the boat, and he's bleeding heavily from the head, the neck, and the thigh. Kind of lifts his shirt to showcase that he doesn't have any weapons. And he kind of just like lazily climbs out of the boat and surrenders himself to a SWAT team at 8:42 p.m. 100 hours after the bombing, the hunt for the Boston Marathon bombers was over. Jahar Tsarnaev was in custody. Jahar was transported to Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston for emergency surgery, being kept alive by the same people he just tried to kill days before. According to a doctor that treated him, Jahar had sustained a skull base fracture, a fracture to his spine, and significant injuries to his mouth, which rendered him unable to speak for the time being. Nurses said that when Jahar actually woke up from surgery, he cried for 2 days straight. Which,
Oh, well.
Good. You know? So, Jahar was then questioned by a federal high-value interrogation team, which is exactly as fun as it sounds, as it's made up of members of the FBI, the CIA, and the Department of Defense. I'm sure that conversation was lovely.
You know, probably. I'm sure they just had a nice little chat. Maybe over some tea.
Yeah.
Some water,
like,
maybe.
It's like, so do you like sports? Or, you think it was just one of those nice conversations?
Like, that's definitely a team that's done some stuff the U.S. government doesn't let you know about. Like, 100%.
Oh, I could go on a huge rant about CIA black sites and things that happen inside of them. But let's not talk about that right now. Stay on the positive that they're fucking with this guy.
Yeah.
So, during his interrogation, Jahar had to use a pen and paper to respond to investigators as his tracheostomy rendered him unable to say anything. Jahar also admitted that Tamerlan and him were absolutely going ahead to New York City to commit following the carjacking of Danny Mang, but got fled once he fled from captivity. Without even knowing it, Danny potentially saved the lives of an untold number of people, but just by trying to save himself.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Once he was fit to stand trial, Jahar was convicted on all 30 counts set before him. The charges of usage of a weapon of mass destruction resulting in death, and in addition to aiding and abetting, made him eligible for the death penalty. And on May 15th, 2015, a jury sentenced Jahar Tsarnaev to death by lethal injection. Jahar now resides at 80X Florence, which isn't a super fun nightclub, but a federal super maximum security in Fremont County, Colorado. But, as one would guess, there's more problems with the story.
Of course.
As on January 10, 2023, Jahar was back in court. His attorney stated that jurors of the case claimed to have never discussed the case on social media, whereas this was determined to be false. But the judge determined that in March 2024 that the trial judge had not adequately investigated the claims of juror bias, sent the case back to the trial court with the instructions that the court should determine whether or not Jahar's death sentence could stand. And this is a current ongoing legal battle. Basically, they actually pulled his death sentence from him and said, you're going to just do life without parole. And the Supreme Court got a hold of it and said, no, you're getting the death penalty, buddy. Like, fuck you. And then now it's kind of in this battle right now whether or not he's actually going to be, going to be killed.
Oh, yeah.
By the government. In the end, all of this was not because of Islam or because of Muslim teachings. This happened because a man who was a failing fucking loser, a man who felt that as if his time in the spotlight was fading, felt it was wrong that he had to live a simple life as a father, and roped his otherwise puppy-like brother into a spiral of misery and death. So to shorten it down, this happened because the Tsarnaev brothers are fucking losers, and I look forward to seeing Jahar's appeal fail, his eventual death via lethal injection. I hope there's a pay-per-view, because I'll bring popcorn and beer and watch that shit go fucking sideways. I want them to do the Alabama treatment when they do the nitrogen hypoxia, so he suffocates for 40 fucking minutes. Fuck the Tsarnaev brothers. But, excuse me, while I go over and talk about something that's even more relevant, because this happened just a year. This happened just a year after
Okay.
I'm sorry. This happened a year after the Zornaya brothers. Excuse me here. I'm doing a lot of scrolling, and I do apologize.
You're good. It'd be like that.
Vamp.
I don't know how. I'm not very good at it.
You got it. good chant. So a year after the Boston Marathon bombings, the family was in hot water again, as Elena Tsarnaev, the sister of Johar and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, was charged with aggravated harassment after a bomb threat was made by phone to another woman. So she basically had a beef with this woman and basically said that she was going to blow up her fucking house, and said that I know how to make bombs. So, you know, the family's had a long history of doing some fuck ass shit.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I forgot to add that in the story when I wrote it initially, but I felt like that was kind of important to add. Things are not going super great.
No.
For Naya family.
No, definitely not.
But with that, that's the story of the Boston Marathon bombers.
That was very well written.
Thank you. More praise, please. I spent a lot of time on this story, and one of the key pieces of things that I watch, because like I tend to have a hard time sitting down and reading books. So I tend to do audiobooks or watch documentaries, things like that. Mm-hmm. And the American Manhunt, the Hunt for the Boston Marathon Bombers, that documentary, incredible, huge part of it. So I use that along with like court documents and just other interviews that were taken from, everybody else, or taken from friends and family and stuff like that, to compile all this information. So it was quite the undertaking.
Yeah. And
I hope you guys, and I shouldn't say enjoyed the story, but enjoyed the effort put into it. And if you did, be sure to rate it 5 stars, listening app, like, share, subscribe. You know the fucking business. It's a podcast. Do what you do. If you want to follow us, you can. HGOPodcast on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Threads. Threads is one I'm thinking of. Threads. And yeah. So, and email us if you want to tell us a story, or if you want to tell us just a crazy encounter that you had, or whatever, something you think that would be interesting for maybe, like, because the idea is that when we get these emails in, we're actually going to open the show with them, because be pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. So email us hgopodcast@gmail.com. Tell us your ghost story. I would love that. Or alien story. Really enjoy that.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about maybe doing some potential live streams under the HGO name at a later date. If you're interested in that, let us know. But if you want to follow me directly, you can at I Hunt the Haunted. And I'm on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm going to be posting some like metal stuff on TikTok and Instagram, so go check that out. I don't stream very much anymore, but I have a Twitch. I'm on there pretty sporadically. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see when I'm going to go live on Twitch. I'll pass off today.
Hi. You can follow me on TikTok or Instagram. I don't really use them, but I'm there. You can follow me at Lunar Thrill. It's down there. You can also follow our dog, who's taking the biggest nap of her life, over here. It's Spirit the Turv on Instagram.
Spirit the Turv.
I occasionally, whenever I have the time and energy, do stream, and that is also under the same name, Lunar Thrill. That's it.
We're not very original when it comes to our streaming stuff, or just our socials. We keep it flat across the board, which is perfect.
Well, it's easier.
Way easier to find
than
us on
being like, hey, I've got 5 different handles for every single platform. Good luck. Like, I don't. That's the username I chose a couple of years ago, and that's the one that stuck. So
yeah,
easier. If I ever change it, it's gonna be a pain in the ass, because I'm gonna have to change fucking everything. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably just never gonna change it.
Yeah. Well, next week, this, like I said, sorry, this episode's coming out so late. So we're pretty much getting like a double Jeopardy this week. But Taylor's got next week's episode, and then the week after that, I got my episode, which I'm working on, which is another huge undertaking, which I can't wait to obsess about for the next 2 weeks. It's gonna be rootin' tootin' fun time is what it's gonna be.
Yeah,
it's gonna be covering some of my favorite time periods and just one of the most insane stories that happened in America that I can't believe is part of real American history.
I mean, you can say that about a lot of things.
Yeah,
genuinely.
You know, they say that like we live in interesting times, you know, historical times, and I heard somebody say the other day that like we live in a time of like cool history time is what people call it.
Yeah.
Where it fucking sucks to live in, but in like 20 years people read out about it, they'd be like, whoa, that was crazy.
Yeah, I can't wait. I just want it to be over. Let me be honest. I'm tired of it. I want it to be over. I have a lot of opinions.
Yeah. But anyway, remember to stay spooky.
Stay haunted.
And fuck those Zarnian brothers.